Hi, in previous video we've covered the library itself, a tonutils, comprehensive, composable and versatile library for interacting with Ton blockchain. It can be used via Dart or Flutter on any platform, Android, iOS, Linux, macOS, web or Windows. And today we're going to discuss how to use it specifically with Dart without using Flutter. So let me switch to the terminal here. Let's create a new project. Dart create, say, tonutils CLI. It will create everything for us. Great. Now let's go to the tonutils. Let's run dart pub add tonutils in order to utilize the library. And let's go edit some files. So as you can see from the pubspec log, we've added the latest version of tonutils. And now let's jump to the CLI example here and do something more interesting than. Okay, let me remove this out of the way, and this CLI probably won't be useful, whatever. So in your void main, let's write something like this. Let's write a new client. Ton JSON RPC, and now let's import a tonutils. We can specify some arguments. See, we can specify the endpoint, the API key, or the timeout. Let's create new mnemonics and use the static class mnemonic Dart generate, which will generate the default mnemonic for us. Here notice that you can specify the password for the mnemonic, but by default it's empty. And here let me actually remove this show ton.json RPC file so that I can use everything from the library here without actually bothering with specifics. It's not super essential for us to keep our bundle as small as possible right now, as we are just showing the example. So for example, the new key pair mnemonic, to key pair mnemonic. Mnemonics is a list of strings. Here we will create a new key pair, and then we can, for example, create a new wallet, right? Wallet contract version 3 revision 1, version 3 revision 2, or version 4 revision 2. Let's create letter 1 and specify the public key here as a first argument, and optionally specify the workchain or the wallet ID. Alternatively, you can use the built-in create static method, which provides the same kind of parameters but makes them named instead of positional, so it's a bit more specific in its intent. So public key, and we need to use our freshly generated key pair and get the public key out of it, right? We've got our wallet already created but not deployed to the network, and it doesn't even have a notion of how to deploy itself in a network just yet, because we didn't specify the contract provider, right? We didn't specify the thing which will be used to deploy this wallet, this contract to the network. So let's do just that. Let's make an opened, and in the open contract we can say that the client we've created before open, and we can provide the wallet to it. Then we'll receive the opened wallet contract before R2, which we can then use to deploy contracts on the network. So for example, here we can assert that open contract provider isn't null anymore because we've just opened the provider for it, right? This function creates the provider. All right, so let's do something basic. Let's get the balance of the contract, which should be 0, considering that we have just created the wallet and didn't actually deploy it to the network, right? So let's add the async modifier here. Notice that not only the async keyword is added, but also the future void is added here as a return type. All right. So here we got our balance. We can print it out, basically print balance semicolon, right? And we can go further and, for example, get the sequence of the contract, get, right, and print it out as well. Okay, let's test stuff, right? Dart run bin, and it shall first create the client, then it shall create the mnemonics, and then it should get the sequence number. But notice here we exceeded the rate limit. We've successfully printed the 0 for the balance, but then the get sequence number method failed because the rate limit of the tone center is 1 message per 1 second. But here we actually did more in 1 second, as Dart is quite a fast language. We can use the API key alongside providing the endpoint. You can specify the API key to use it. And so for endpoint, we'll use testnet, and then we'll specify the API key on this position. Currently, I don't have one, but you can imagine that you can specify your API here, right? So in order to circumvent that, if you, for example, don't have an API key, or you are out of the API keys already, you've used them all, you can omit them altogether and instead do something like that. You can say, because we're in the async function as you hear, right? We can wait for the future, delay for the duration of 1 second, right? And we can wait for 1 second before requesting the next thing, right? So let's do just that. And now, if we run Dart run after the built-in package, we should not exceed the rate limit, as we have a delay of 1 second between our method calls, right? And so you see just that, 0 for the balance and 0 for the sequence number, right? Perfect. And you can go along and experiment with this. For example, here you may want to do something else. You may create a transfer, but notice that once again the official tone center API has the rate limit on 1 second. You can either deploy your own version of API, or you can just use future delayed after request, just so you won't get rate limited. This library doesn't do any hidden requests, nothing at all, and so you can be sure that whenever you are calling any method on the open contract, which requires getting or sending something to the network, you will not get rate limited just by using this essentially sleep one and this one. Okay, let us get a little bit deeper into wallet contract and what we can do with it. So let me go to definition of it and see that in terms of methods, it has a getBalance method, which returns the balance of a wallet as a feature. We have a getSequenceNumber method, we have a send method. Okay, that's great, but what else can you do? Basically, you can do everything you were able to do with a TonCore net library. So for example, let me await an open contract and showcase what we can do here. So we can get balance, right? We can get sequence number, we can send a message as a signed transfer. We can sign and send the transfer if we don't already have a transfer as a message, as a cell. We can create a sender, and that's pretty much it. And with a client, we can get balance, run any particular method we want. We can run method with error and see the exit code as well. We can get transactions. We can get a single transaction. We can get a master chain info, working charts, shard transaction, send some messages, files, estimate external message fee, send that external message to a contract, check if the contract is deployed, get its state, open the contract, create a new provider, and so on. So there are lots of things you can do with this library, and you hope with building whatever you want. Alright, that's pretty much it. There are a lot more to explore, a lot more features for the low-level operations on the Ton blockchain, but most important are the clients themselves and the wallets. Wallet contracts, wallet transfers, and the client with on JSON. With that, you can build anything you want. Wish you luck, good fun, see ya!